Good afternoon. The Building Facilities Construction Committee meeting of Thursday, October 7th, 2021 at 4 p.m. will now begin at, 4:08. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm just going to ask everyone to introduce themselves for the minute taker. I'm Shirley Mazinski, chairman of this committee.
Fred Fontaine.
Linda Brown.
Ginger Howell.
Thank you. Okay, if it's all right with the board, we'll skip down to the municipal backup generator. Matt Wojcik, our administrator, is here to give us some input and direction and what have you.
So can I bother you to disclose whether Mr. Holland's absence is excused or unexcused?
Mr. Holland, I have not been able to reach.
Okay, so technically it's an unexcused absence.
Yes.
I don't know how many this makes. We'll have to go back in the minutes to determine
Right,
how many in a row.
right. I have emailed him, some have bounced back to me, postmaster. Other times it's okay. I have called him several times at different times for meetings, and I do not get a response.
Yeah, so the bylaw isn't discretionary for any
Yeah,
of us.
understand.
Regardless of the sympathy of the situation. If there is no attempt to communicate,
Mm-hmm.
the member misses 4 consecutive meetings, they can't serve.
Right.
And that's a town meeting decision, so.
The only thing is, again, like you said, we'll have to check the minutes. I know this is probably the third.
Yeah,
There was
I don't
one-
think it's been 4, but
No. So,
And he did serve as our chairman for a long time.
Right.
So I just bounced.
and so I got voted in as chair because we weren't getting any response, but.
and there's nothing that precludes somebody from coming back onto a board once the situation clears up.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think that the service has been really, wonderful to this point. We wouldn't keep a volunteer who wants to be on the board as an attorney from being on the board.
Right.
But in the meantime, like I said, we don't have the discretion to ignore the general bylaw. The
Right.
bylaw says 4, it says it's 4. And if in the meantime, we had to get another member, so you're going to get really busy as we put these things out. So the workload, you might want to,
Yep.
the different people's perspective can really help.
So we'll check, see how many it is, or at least one more meeting, and take it from there.
Sure. Is it, how many meetings per year? 4 meetings per year?
Consecutive,
It has to be consecutive
Yeah.
absences. So basically,
Oh.
you'd be saying somebody missed a whole quarter of meetings
Oh, I
in a
see.
row.
Okay,
So all he would have to do is come to one, and it would reset
Yep.
back.
all right. That's better.
Or even if it was excused. See, the troublesome thing here is there's no communication at
Yeah.
all. So if the next absence were excused, the clock would stop.
right, okay.
Is it automatic or does some?
It is
action have to be
actually
taken?
automatic. Yeah.
I mean, if he had called me back or emailed me and said, I am unable to come due to, or just at least contact, but I haven't had any communication in at least 2 or 3 meetings.
Yeah.
Okay? Great.
Adam is at a fallen tree,
Oh.
so he will be here, but he'll be late. He is kind of important for these first 2 agenda items, so I think you guys had already arrived at a consensus. You wanted to go to item 4, which we can do.
Do you need Adam for that?
No.
No, because we've had our information, so,
Right, so the RFQ was put out and included the score sheet that you would use. We tried to keep it simple. My understanding of the bylaw is that this committee's responsibility is to recommend 3. Right,
Recommend to the selectmen.
to the select board to recommend 3. And so therefore, you have 6. In reviewing the 6, Oh, I got to grab something for you in the other office. I can get it in a second. We reviewed them to make sure they all met the minimum requirements, which they do. There's one on the borderline that doesn't exactly meet it, but they all did meet. They made an assignment, and they filled out all the forms, and they did what they were supposed to comply with the minimum requirements of the RFQ. So there's nobody disqualified from consideration. So then what would happen is we can have a general discussion about each in turn, or you can take each scoring category if you so desire and score each of the 6 in seriatim for each of the scoring criteria. Sometimes it's easy to identify if you feel like you have 1 or 2 that are clearly not strong as the others. You can save yourself time and energy. Let's say you have 4 left. Well, then you're deciding who the 3 are. Then you can kind of proceed along fairly quickly there. You could do the same in the opposite direction. Say 1 is really clearly very strong, 1 is very weak, we got 2 more spots to fill. I think we've all read them, so I don't want to bias anybody's filter for looking through these things. On the references, I've got the report that Lisa and I were able to put together after about a week of trying to track down references for everybody. We had a lot more luck with some than others. In a lot of cases, we were leaving messages. I pull the plug after you've followed up twice with a reference. If they don't call you back, 'cause they're not going to. These are, for the most part, our peers. I think it's pretty strong evidence of the quality of the contractor's response to the request for quotes. If they provide you with a list of references and you call the references and they say, who? Right? Or, oh yeah, that guy was great, but it was 20 years ago, he doesn't work there anymore.
Yeah.
That kind of gives you a sense of, did they pay attention even to the RFQ? Because the RFQ said 25% of the score would be the quality of the references received. So
Right.
Lisa did compile all that. It's on her desk.
Okay.
Because we finished today, we kind of finished it off.
So you have the answer to the references.
Yes, I can give you those.
Great.
I only wanted to draw your attention to one. I'm going to double check my own facts here, because it jumped out at me.
How do you
Solomon and Associates.
See a lot of no's.
So I am referring to Solomon and Associates Consulting Engineers out of Connecticut. They're in Wallingford. They've done a lot of projects that seem very similar to what we're trying to do, but I would be remiss if I didn't draw to your attention on the designer form. So this is tab 2. And I'm looking at page 3 of their tab 2. In the right-hand column, the project assignment is the project manager, so this would be the person that we deal with directly.
Yeah.
And the assignment is senior mechanical engineer and project manager. If you go down to item F, active registration, not applicable. The individual that's being named our project manager is not an engineer. So that doesn't make me feel all that comfortable about
Yeah.
this response. I didn't notice.
Reasons not to feel comfortable about that coming anyway.
So that kind of puts them in a separate category. I thought the other 5 didn't suffer from any similar weakness. So, do you want me to run and get those references now, Madam Chair, or do you want to wait until
We can wait.
you decide
Yeah.
your process?
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Matt regarding that? No? Okay. All right.
So a lot of times when these things are scored, it's a very informal sort of discussion amongst the board members. and you can ask me for any feedback if you want, but it really is for you to decide.
And because, Matt, because this is a public environment and you're taping this to whoever we talk about, what can we actually say in public?
So,
I don't want to get sued.
true. Your business, your opinions, the conclusions you've reached from reviewing the materials, it is a public process. It is understood by the applicants, because it was in the RFQ, that their proposals would be reviewed in an open meeting, and that they would not be, correct, and that they would not be interviewed by the committee unless the committee decided to have interviews. It's a little bit dicier when it comes to references. So the reference report you will get from Lisa and I does detail who said what. In the interest of discretion, it would be better if we, in conversation, did not attribute comments to any particular
Yeah.
person.
Great.
A lot of these people are my peers. I see them all the time. You really trashed that guy. Nobody trashed anybody, but not all the references were not universally
weren't.
positive. So I just respect that.
Thank you.
Boy, was your junk phone call from Yonkers, New York? Because I don't know anybody in Yonkers.
No, but I've been there to the racetrack. I think it's still running, I don't know. That's the thing.
Okay.
So the floor's open to general questions?
I'm sorry.
I have a general question.
Yeah, please. Brett?
So, wouldn't someone who's done work for the town of Douglas, can you take already, wouldn't that kind of put them at the top, because the reference would basically be you?
It wouldn't actually be me. I think it would be the chair, and I think both Linda and Ginger were on the committee when that project was done. So you probably have more knowledge of it than I would. I did make a phone call to Bill Cundiff through Mike Fitzpatrick, actually. Had a detailed conversation with him. Some time ago, I think 2014, the town fixed the boiler. It became sort of a catch-all project here in
Yeah.
Town Hall. And you had a pretty nasty incident with the boiler. And there was a significant amount of design work. And the lead architect was not a mechanical engineering firm. They're an architectural firm. So they were out of their league a little bit with some of the design work. So they subbed it out. It turned into quite a protracted conversation on this board, because the original design called for replacement of like to like. This building had a boiler and a backup boiler. And the backup hadn't been used for many, many years. It had been cannibalized for parts to keep the old one, the one good unit going. When that one finally died, the design came back calling for 2 boilers. And it was Mr. Fitzpatrick who raised a flag and said, well, what in the world are we going to do with 2 boilers? I don't want to be the, know-it-all who reads the minutes after the fact and forms all kinds of opinions. I did read all the minutes. I had some opinions. I thought it was really disorganized and kind of messy. There was a lot of extra conversation about louvers and accoutrements that, frankly, the designer should not have been called to task on. They should have thought all that stuff through. I mean, it's really hard to do a boiler design without figuring out where the air is going to come from to fire the boiler. So it really didn't look so good. But Bill's feedback was different. He said it's not their fault. They were working for somebody else. Things that they actually put their hands on and touched, they did a nice job on it. And the issue really was, in that case, the architect managing the engineer and not really grasping what the engineer was trying to say. So Bill's overall impression of GGD, I think it is, was that they were a good company to work with. He said something else which I do know is true, that they enjoy a great reputation in the industry. because they've continued to do significant projects. Down Dartmouth is one of the more recent ones. I think they did a UMass project. But it doesn't automatically rocket you to the forefront all these years later. That was 7 years ago.
Okay.
So it does count. They've been in the building,
Yeah.
right?
All right.
Anyone else? Questions?
I actually live in the static building.
What was that? I couldn't hear you.
Excuse me?
I couldn't hear you.
I said I wasn't exactly in a static building.
Oh, okay.
I think there was some, no big deal, but there was some stuff that I thought maybe there was somebody else that was better, that's all. Not that they're horrible, they're just, it was good to me. What little I know, my friend.
I think where I had difficulty is looking at the specific, welcome, Adam.
Sorry.
It's all right. Looking at the specific place, item that we were to be evaluating them on, sometimes they didn't do well under that specific thing, in my opinion, so. But anyhow, do you want to go through each one and evaluate them, if you haven't?
Do we have to go step by step, or do what Matt said about just discuss that each one?
It's really your call as a group, how you want to make decisions, what makes you feel comfortable. If you rated them at home by yourself and you want to disclose where you came out, I've said this before, much to my chagrin. Hopefully, nobody witnessed it, because it was a horrible thing to witness, but I had the select board do a rating system for the RFQ for the property that was sold on Webster Street, which, as you know, turned into about 4 meetings of, they put the wrong scores in the wrong columns.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
I saw that.
And it was nothing short of a train wreck.
Yeah.
I had tried to short circuit that by saying, if you went around the table and already had a consensus, that would be the quickest way out.
Right.
Right? Because the more you dig down, the more layers of the onion you peel off, the closer you get to the stinky part in the middle, because it gets hard to keep track of. If you wanted to do it that way, I would do it that way, but I would come back with a score sheet in front of me, and I would carefully write down what everybody said the score was. But if you're really, I think everybody kind of nodded their head about this one, so you're picking 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
And if you are all pretty much on the same page on who those 3 out of 5 should be, then any additional conversation is just
Yeah.
a lot of extra.
Why have we got 3 out of 5? We got
We eliminated Salmon, the brown cover one.
The one there.
right here.
Yeah.
The head guy is not going to be an engineer.
And
Who's the second one?
Well, that's what we've got to
Well,
we've got to come up with 3 out of the 5.
Well, we want to pick,
Oh, okay, so we.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So out of those 5, we need,
three.
yeah, but we
You had 1 out of
need to
6,
have
so you have
3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We have to have 3, is that what you said, Shirley?
Yeah,
I didn't realize that, thank you for saying.
right.
Well,
Is that your
maybe if we
recollection?
each-
That's my recollection of the bylaw. Or actually, it's your designer selection rules. Do you have a copy of those? I can get them easy enough.
I have a copy of the request for the qualifications. I don't know if it says it in there. I don't,
Being the designer selection rules that the select board put into place at the BFCC's request quite a long time ago,
Okay.
2011, 2012. I do have a copy. I'll go get them.
all right,
But is that your recollection, Adam? They picked 3?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm 90% sure it's right.
Yeah,
I pretty,
okay.
Look, I don't, me personally, I looked at this, my first time doing this, and it's like they're all given a homework assignment. They all completed the assignment and did everything on the assignment. So I really wouldn't be easy for me to pick three out of 5. I could be, it's my first time doing this, but I could be swayed either way if the other 2 members
Sure.
could easily convince me. But
I think the last one we did with Bill was, because of this, we were messed up too with the first rating system.
Yeah.
And then we just had 2 columns, advantageous, not advantageous.
Yeah.
It got to that point.
Yeah.
That it was good or bad, that's it.
So what we could do is, all right, take them as they're listed here,
Sounds good.
all right? And the first one, if everybody's in agreement, and then discussion on them. And the first one was BLW.
I'm gonna run and get those references.
I thought they had a good proposal. They really broke down step by step a plan. They were the only one that gave a detailed month to month.
There was another one.
Yeah, there was.
But as far as, what I ran into, and, see if everybody feels the same way, as far as the financial stability and the prior similar experience, I felt they all fell in the first column.
I agree.
They what?
They all came in the first column. They all presented to me, in my opinion.
So which
But-
one are you on our
On page 1,
check sheet?
You're
Yeah.
saying they're all highly advanced?
well, according to, this is just me.
Yeah.
The items that we're charged with, did they do this?
Well, the thing too is it also goes on to respondent has 5 projects in Massachusetts, and
Yeah.
then the respondent has
Yeah.
financial stability.
Right.
Yeah,
A lot of the others did not give us any finances at all.
right.
So we can't say that they all had the same on, page 1. I included financial stability.
Why don't we,
Important.
and Ginger, each one, take one?
Yes.
This is references. Pass them around. Oh, I should have gave one for Fred, but you can pass them around. So while we're doing this,
And pass that place. Thank you.
Let's keep one for Adam so we can, oh, you got one?
Yep, I went.
Well, I'll keep one for myself then.
so in regard to the references, they look okay. So on the second page, proposal quality, reviewers will rate the respondent's work plan for substantive thoroughness and time management. Anybody have any comments regarding where they came in on that?
On page 2.
2.
I thought BLW gave a good time frame.
Okay.
Which is basically the plan for this page 2.
So highly advantageous means the proposal reflects a comprehensive and thoughtful review of current conditions and future town needs.
That's where everybody fell down. I think
Yes, and
except one company did a really good job.
And it will address issues in 1 to 2 month time frame. I didn't think any of the others.
The proposal is a
timeframe.
detailed, logical, and highly efficient scheme for producing bid documents that address all of the required issues within a time frame of 1 to 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You comments?
Well,
BLW, I thought they addressed that.
Fred, comments?
Agreed.
yeah, I guess they did, but that's not the one that I think did the best job.
Right, but I mean, if you want to keep on this trend. So maybe we should keep track of how many agree with this. So Linda,
Well, on the first page, who agreed with the first page?
everybody?
BLW or who else?
Everybody? Well, let's just do BLW,
We're only gonna
and we'll
do
go one company at a time,
corporation
Oh.
and-
okay?
okay.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
And Matt, if you have any other suggestions, please feel free. I'm willing.
I'll only draw your attention to something if I don't hear you mention it. Behind tab 5 for BLW, there's an extensive list here of generator projects.
Yep,
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So they really, it's indisputable, they have a lot of experience working with
yep.
this type of thing. And they have 51 engineers in the firm.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so everybody, 4 of us, okay. And then on page 2, again, as we were going forward, BLW, the proposal reflects comprehensive, thoughtful review, current conditions. Everybody in agreement with BLW?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. 4 of us?
Dance wisely, but yeah.
Okay. Third page, so key personnel, 25%. Provide, that's there, that's another, 25% is, I got caught off guard on that, too. Provide an organizational chart that shows key personnel the respondent will assign to this project, identify the individuals and associated firms, if any, who will fill the roles of principal in charge, so forth. Comments on that?
I thought BLW again was the only one I could score highly as having highly advantageous.
I had a problem trying to find that. I had a problem trying to find that.
Find what?
The, identifying the individuals and the associated firms acting in the roles of principal in charge.
Well, they gave that.
So the project team is behind
Yeah.
tab 2,
Yep,
about halfway into the deck.
Yes.
There's a org chart.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say highly advantageous.
And which page are you talking about, Matt?
They don't put page numbers.
Yeah, that's right.
You're right there.
Yep, it's boxes.
Yeah,
Well, behind, the next pages explain each one's expertise.
but what I'm saying is, did they say they were going to be the ones like some of the others did?
What do you mean they were going to be? It says
Or are
the
they just
team.
listing the
I'd make
one-
that assumption because it says Town of Douglas.
I think it's a good question.
It doesn't just say our team, it says Town of Douglas project team.
No, these are their assignments. And then if you, on their section 4, so that's behind tab 4, the standard designer selection form for the Commonwealth,
Yep,
they disclose their project assignments. I want to try to, this has page numbers, so I'll try to find it for you.
Yeah. Page 1, actually, project manager, John.
Pirga,
Yeah, again, it's John Pierre in the box, in the chart, flow chart.
Okay.
And I remember tearing through this to make sure that their designated project manager, Michael, some people say Gagne, some people say Gagny,
Yeah.
what his status was. And I think I determined that he is a registered engineer. He didn't disclose his number on the org chart, but he is in fact. Let me see if I can find him. Bear with me for a second. You can keep
Yeah.
going down your line.
This is
of-
why I had a problem. Some of them, it nailed it right out there. This is the,
Right,
You had to work on this one a little bit to
Yeah.
find it.
which makes me nervous. This is such a straightforward thing that doesn't have to work. And the other thing, are these the people that then had a separate page with all the generators that they're working on? Yes?
I believe so.
She asked the question, she doesn't know the answer. Great.
They did a rundown of all their generators, but I think
In
the
this,
really crazy one was NV5, where they had page after page after page of,
well, that's what this is too.
yeah.
yeah, but,
I call that smoke and mirrors where I come from,
yeah.
because that's not anything about what we're looking for, and the things that we were looking for, it's almost like it was an afterthought.
I guess,
That always makes me nervous.
yeah. What I focused more on was electrical. And maybe I'm wrong, we need all, I guess, but I focused on, all right, who was the electrical engineer versus, well, mechanical, that's good too, but some were plumbing and,
Well, here on, I don't know if it's called page number 6, it's John Pierre again, who's an electrical engineer.
So he's the designated project manager. So they're not just saying that he's the principal in charge. So sometimes they'll do that.
yeah,
The design firms, they'll say, well, so-and-so's your lead. But then you realize that's not the person that's really doing the
Yeah.
work.
Okay.
exactly,
The project manager is the person doing the work.
yeah.
And it's not just the name on the letterhead. So what I took from this org chart, again, you don't have to follow my opinion, but I thought, getting from this, that John Pierga is the project manager. He is a registered electrical engineer, and he's got 2 people on his team. Mr. Gagny notwithstanding, the other engineer on the team is Jeremy Caro, and he has a registration number.
Matt, what page are you finding that on?
So I'm still back at the org chart.
Oh,
It's behind set tab 2, but about halfway into tab 2.
yeah,
Thank you.
And there really isn't anything about this project that is HVAC or plumbing. That's extraneous information. It's not helpful.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to ask them to do anything like that.
right,
They're hooking up wires to a generator.
exactly.
Yeah.
So back on our third page,
Yep.
BLW engineers. Fred,
Yes.
highly advantageous?
Highly advantageous, yeah.
Highly advantageous,
You too?
yes.
For key personnel, is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
On the third
Yeah.
page, yes.
Okay. I can go with that, but I'm not excited.
I actually had them not advantageous, but,
Actually, you know what, so I have, hang on.
I mean,
Acceptable,
no, I didn't go there, but,
yeah.
okay. And where are you on that, Ginger? You want to go not acceptable or unacceptable or not advantageous?
Let's do not advantageous.
So we're 2-2. Okay. References, we didn't do, and you and Lisa did.
So we made a lot of calls and didn't get too many responses. We got one person that I know of and respect did talk to Lisa at some great length.
So good references.
It's a good reference. And a long-standing relationship, too. So they've rehired them
Okay,
after several projects.
okay.
So I'd say highly advantageous.
Yes, me
Yeah.
too.
Yep. I agree. Ginger, you're good with that? Okay. All right. So and the next one is NVS.
Ask for a 5.
A 5, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, it could be either, I suppose.
And your references, we can look at before we get into it. They've had some changes, but looks like their reference is good.
So this is one of those, this is a classic roll-up play. They're a fairly substantial national firm that is now buying market share and
Yeah.
presence. They bought RDK, which was a firm I had never worked with before, but I heard of them in Massachusetts. They were a big firm. This is where comparing financial stability is almost unfair. A publicly traded company is going to be able to fully disclose,
Yeah.
Apples and oranges.
you know, with all of their 10K and their audited reports and everything else. So they are as transparent as anybody can be that's regulated by the SEC. A lot of times with national firms, if I'm providing people advice, I would say we should sharpen our pencils and look at the local team that they're assigning and not the strength of the firm.
I agree.
Nobody's flying in from Austin, Texas to do a generator in
Yeah.
Douglas.
That's the hour we don't want them to.
That's probably something going badly if somebody had to fly in from Texas.
Right.
But their local office is 190 people. They have 44 electrical engineers on staff. So this is one of those things. The principal in charge would be Mr. Wall, but I don't think we'll see him much more than once
Yeah.
if you picked them. You would be seeing Josh Smith, who has fairly impressive list of credentials after his name. He's a 24-year engineer.
I was looking at those, the sheets, and it said, for most of them, availability for this project, 30%
Yeah.
on most of them. And I'm like, wow, how would we ever
They're too big.
deal with that, you know?
The size of the lot, well,
So I'm thinking actually it's on the designer selection form. The actual person we would probably deal with is Robert Robbins. Because they offer up
Yep.
Mr. Cartemage as quality control, so he's probably the second set of eyes. So the actual designer would be Mr. Robbins, who is a lead electrical engineer with 28 years of experience.
Yep.
do you think that longevity really counts for much at the end of the day?
Well, that's a soft spot with me. Because I always go back to it's in actually the canons of professional conduct for attorneys. It says it right in there. It says a brand-new attorney may actually deliver a high-quality service. And an attorney with many years of experience may be challenged to do so. And that's, in all the professions, that's true.
Yeah.
I think what happens-
They come along for the ride.
Yeah. Although if you're the partners in the firm and somebody's not pulling their weight, you would think they would
Take care of it.
take care of the dead weight. They don't always. I think what happens, and why we ask for firm resumes around the specific type of project that we're trying to do, is you learn shortcuts. You just do. A law firm that does a lot of mortgage foreclosures doesn't make the mistakes that typically mess up mortgage foreclosures, because it's all about the wording of the posting, right? So you find that firm that's got 4 or 5 attorneys that have worked with the banks for years. You're probably going to pick them if that's what you want.
Yeah, they pump them out.
And you just get, not shortcuts, but you become more sensitive to the finer points of what can derail a project when you have that kind of experience all the time and not trying to be a generalist. So it's kind of hard to, with 44 electrical engineers on staff, they are going to have done a lot of generator projects.
It's this
It can be
list.
good or bad.
And again, with national firms, my only, what I'd like to bring to the committee's attention is this would be, in their pantheon, a small project.
Yep.
And will we get the attention that we deserve? Because for us, this is a really important project.
Right.
So we don't want to be on a different page with our vendor.
So just to move this along, I think we all said we felt that they all met the highly advantageous.
I
They did.
didn't say that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Don't speak for me.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you, Linda.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they did meet the qualifications that were requested.
What page are we on?
Well, I wrote down the respondent meets the minimum experience required,
Okay.
as far as I was concerned. I gave them, the one on our sheet to fill out.
Oh, you're on page.
Seem to be jumping around a little bit, so.
Yep.
Are we on finance? We're going to go through one by one like we did, starting with financial stability.
Yep,
NV5, financial stability, I see
Yep.
highly advantageous.
but right now, we're still, that's where we are, right now.
Okay.
Financial stability and prior similar experience.
I did highly advantageous for M5. I mean, financially, they're probably pretty stable.
Yeah. I did, but Linda, you didn't.
No,
Okay, so, and Fred, you're,
Yes, highly
Okay.
advantageous.
because I wrote no bank info, no financials.
I didn't see that. I
I
thought
didn't see where they submitted any of that.
think they
so-
did, but,
Talk about,
And they're not available for more than 30% of the time.
because they're big shots.
okay.
I'm not excited about them for
Me,
the other ones.
right.
Yeah.
It's a big.
Okay, so 3 of us yes and 1 no. Yours was unacceptable, Linda, or
Not
not
advantageous.
advantageous? Okay. All right, on to the next page, proposal quality. And this is NV5. Fred? Or you want to start with Linda? What was your,
I wrote unacceptable because I didn't see
Okay.
any time frame. None of that at all.
okay.
It's addressed in their
Ginger,
proposal.
or you're still looking?
I said highly advantageous.
I did too. One, two. Where do you fall on this one, Fred?
I'm going to say not advantageous. There isn't any specific time frame, like Linda said.
Okay. So,
Unless I missed it.
No, I think when you compare the level of detail that BLW provided, which, there really is a work plan in that submission.
yeah,
Yeah.
And here, that to kick the horse as hard as Linda wants me to, but whenever the words Town of Douglas appears, it's in bold, as if somebody went through and did a search and replace on the company pamphlet and said, all right, take out Beavertown, Ohio, and put in
Yeah.
Town of Douglas, Massachusetts.
Uh-huh.
And the rest of it's rah-rah, we're great.
Yeah.
And what we were asking for is for someone to tell us about how many weeks it would take for them to get to construction bid
Correct.
documents.
yep, okay. All right.
So actually, it's not there at all unless I
That's
missed it, so
right.
I'm going to say unacceptable.
Correct.
Okay, so 2 of you unacceptable, am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
2 and 2. Boy, we're far apart on that one. All right, and,
Strange, actually.
okay. Key
Well, my
personnel,
question on that is, where do you see a time frame for these guys, unless I'm missing it? Where they say, you know, first step, and then second step, and, you know, completion of their part in 1 to 2 months, or, because that's,
yeah, that's okay. So we're 2 and 2 on that one.
Good point, guys.
Yep. That's true. All right. So, on to the next. References, and you had the references, which were pleased with level of service.
Did we skip key personnel, or did we do that?
yeah, we didn't do the
I'm sorry.
third page.
Yeah. You're right, thank you. Key personnel,
I put unacceptable, because when I see they're available 30%, it doesn't matter how good the
Okay.
qualifications are.
yep.
Where are you? When you said-
Right here on the third page of this.
No, I know that.
Oh.
Where are you? Here.
Oh,
Never having seen this before, can I ask, Matt, is that typical?
like.
I've never
this
been an
guy,
engineer.
Right? It
The
says.
professional services
current work
firm that I
assignments
worked
and
for was
availability
a
for this
business
project,
consulting
which
firm.
is ours.
What's his name?
It would be very difficult to have a triple
He's available.
allocation of your
30%
time,
That means he's
because that
unavailable
means you're juggling 3 cases
3/4 of the time.
and trying to
And the
service
same
3
thing with the
clients.
next guy.
Is there
Josh
must be a
Smith.
standard way to come up with that
And it looked like
percentage?
all of them were
Or is they
like
just
that.
kind of,
And I'm like,
That's probably their internal operating model,
right?
right? So all professional services firms do this. I mean, lawyers are different because they have a case, it may be hot, then it slows down.
Yeah.
But when you have a project base, which makes my experience as a consultant similar to this, you would work with a client to the end of the engagement. I always volunteered to get 1 at a time, or to have 2 smaller pieces of the same case at the same client site, because you're traveling, you're, putting in the hours, producing the work on deadlines. So if you have 3 clients, and you have major milestones for all 3 clients that are hitting at very similar
It's a big
timeframes,
workload.
you are really burning the candle pretty hard.
Right.
But they may have found, because they are such a large firm, they may have found that that's the staffing model that they prefer to have, and it's how they earn their multiple.
And in their reference, do they say anything about that? If they're unhappy about that, or that it's not a good
All right.
approach?
Well, we didn't get the references yet.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. All right, so I'm also going to say unacceptable.
Okay. So Linda, Fred, unacceptable. Ginger?
I would say not advantageous.
Okay, 1, 2, and now that it's pointed out to me, because I did not take it that way, but I'll go with not advantageous. All right, everybody okay with that?
Just as we, so I completely understand this as we go. Wouldn't somebody that said, oh, well, you can have, it would be 80%, might just think, well, they don't have much work then, are they any good?
No, that's a good observation as well.
Yep.
If everybody's so busy right now that we have a hard time finding people who want to do work, anybody who's 80% available,
Right.
Yeah,
you gotta kind of scratch.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And so there, one's 30%, one's 30%. I mean, when you put it all together, obviously it's a model that works for them. They wouldn't put it out there.
Right.
Right, true. Can I change mine to
Sure.
not advantageous? Sorry.
so instead of unacceptable, you want not advantageous.
Correct.
Both of,
I want unacceptable. I can't accept 30%. I
Okay.
just
But it's not
That-
30%.
boggles my mind.
Okay.
It does say 30%,
I know
70
that, but there's-
general.
Well, one was-
30% for us.
not all of them were, but that's okay.
Well, just as I think about it, if you're hiring an electrician and you don't want somebody that can come tomorrow,
Well, sometimes you do.
also it depends on the
What?
situation.
Of course I want somebody to come tomorrow. I want them today.
I want them yesterday.
Okay, so, references,
Yep.
Brookline uses NBS as their commissioning agent, testing and signing off, so forth. Pleased with service level and responsiveness. So,
So it looks like it's a 25 for references, because that's
yep, so
good.
highly advantageous or advantageous?
I have a little, just a quick question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Do we know how they did with the new intermediate elementary school? Because that's listed as one of their projects.
Yeah.
I just don't, I wasn't involved in it, I have no idea how they did, I didn't know if anyone knew.
That, it didn't stand out as I remember it.
Are we?
Didn't seem to be any problem.
Okay.
Got too much.
Yeah.
We had problems with the lead person of the whole
Yeah,
project.
there was a lot of moving pieces, I heard, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good point, Adam, thank you. So,
So I'd say probably no news is good news on that front. So
yeah. So what do you want?
I'll say highly advantageous.
I will too.
Ginger?
We're at NV5? now?
Yeah,
That's-
With their
I have-
references?
I have highlighted.
yeah, okay. I do too. All right. Okay.
Where are we going now?
We've got those three. Town of, what's the next one? Did Giorgio Associates? This one?
Yep.
That's a DAI.
Okay. And again, back to the first page, and comments, questions? I think we, well, most of us, everybody agree they met the highly advantageous?
No, I
No?
got them as unacceptable.
Okay.
They claim they've got a lawsuit against them. Financials are for Lero. Financials are from 2018. No generator experience.
Oh, that's these people. Okay.
Giorgio.
Did Giorgio?
Georgia.
Yeah. You got the right one, Ginger? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
I do.
All right.
Amazing.
No. It's okay. Give me some numbers. Linda says it's unacceptable to her.
She's just crazy.
Thank you.
She's doing her job.
Yeah.
She's doing her job.
Doing a good job.
Says it like she feels.
I think she's done a great job.
Does it say how big this company is? I didn't know if anyone saw that.
It has to disclose
Yeah,
that in its designer application.
I just see that the project manager is also the lead electrical engineer. So, I mean, you can take that as good and bad. Good as in you're going to have the same person for both, bad as in, do we not have a lot?
Anybody see the generators here?
Well, that's what I said. I don't see any generators for this company.
So without a doubt, this is an architectural firm.
Yeah.
They have 12 architects out of their 43 staff people. So I'm on page 1 of the designer application form, which is section 6 of their presentation. So the word engineering does not appear in the name of the firm, which is a little bit of a tip. And I think that's why, when you look at their firm experience, you see whole buildings. And the engineers are selectively assigned when they have the whole building design.
Yeah.
So they're doing the highway bond in Revere,
Yeah.
and,
Depending on how you want.
which is a pretty big project, 70,000 square foot building, and, but it's, Mr. Zikowitz is the architect, and it looks like they won the design contract on the strength of their architectural experience. And the electrical engineer is assigned to it because he's doing the drawings to support his architectural lead. That's a different approach.
Yeah. Questions? Comments?
Still looking for a generator, I don't see one, I'm going to say unacceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to say, and you guys could disagree vehemently if you so choose, if we're at the point where we're saying unacceptable, it's over for me. I mean, no matter what else they do, we've already said, you're not going to work for us. You may be very good at what you do, but it's not what we're looking for. So why would we proceed and waste more time?
I agree.
Good point. Do you all
That's why
agree?
with Bill, we had advantageous and not advantageous.
Right.
It was just two things.
Fish cut bait, folks. If they're not here, it doesn't matter.
So instead of moving out, we just move this to the end of the line.
So
Yeah.
they're
I think
disqualified.
if
That's-
you disagree, that's fine.
I'd also like to bring up, if you look at the references, something that learning this maintenance job is actually giving
Yeah.
me. One of the reference checks was designer work was very thorough, but missed some details. Now, we can't afford to miss details.
That's right. Good point.
So,
Details, kind of important
So we put
to some people.
Di Giorgio with
So
Salamone.
you're going to score them, Shirley? All no for these guys?
Isn't the scoring more for an exercise for us anyway to
Yeah.
come up with the 3 out of 5?
A
So I say we
recommendation.
disqualify and move on.
Yep.
So right now, they are disqualified.
And so
So
is,
disqualified with Solomon.
Solomon.
Yes,
Solomon.
yes, yes.
I'm sure they're very good, but they're not what we need.
The only thing that, just, if we don't come up with 3, we might have to go back to the disqualified.
I don't-
So maybe we do the, but we'll worry about that if it comes to it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, okay. The next one is GGD. So references.
Oh, God.
Consulting engineers, reference check with Bill Cundiff, Town of Douglas, regarding municipal center boiler replacement. Company was very good to work with and have a good reputation with the industry.
And I have,
So first page, Shirley,
First page, GGD Consulting Engineers.
have not acceptable,
I have unacceptable.
Really?
not advantageous, I'm sorry.
Not advantageous. Ginger, you had unacceptable.
No, Ginger had unacceptable.
And on page 2, I have unacceptable
Wait a minute.
for the record.
One. Fred?
Give me a
Now
minute.
you're going to ask me why, and I can move right along here.
Wish they all put tabs.
I
I
know.
do too, and they numbered their pages. Can we ask them to do that now?
You know what? From now on, I think I'm gonna say, if you don't put numbers on your pages, you're killing us. You guys. A couple of things. I did get a text from Mr. Fitzpatrick, who's no longer a member of this committee, but
Yep,
still wants to help you out.
sure.
I won't paraphrase any of his words. I apologize for forgetting about today's meeting.
Thank you.
Do you need me to call in? I personally am in favor of GGD, where we have had a good experience with them in the past. Granted, we worked indirectly with them. Their location in Dartmouth may make them more available than some others. So that was Mike's only feedback on any of this.
Good to know.
They're fairly detailed about who they're going to assign to you, which would be Jorge Rosa. And I used my highlighter actually on the cover page, so really page 1 of their proposal. They're up to 51 people. And then I noted on page 2, it was of interest, and I wasn't able to get any references on these projects. It's my only regret, but item 4, they did an addition on a regional emergency communications center, which included providing a backup generator for the emergency communications center, and that was complete back in October 2020. And it's about the size of ours, so it's a total project cost is $476. And then the next item below that, Southeastern Mass Regional Emergency Communications Center in Foxborough. So they built basically an E911 facility, 34,000 square feet, with all the communications and backup generators required. Those guys in Foxborough are tough. Just,
It seems to tick the boxes. I'm just curious why you chose unacceptable.
Did I say that for these
I
guys?
thought you did.
No, that was for DeGiorgio.
Oh, okay.
So,
I put, for them on page 1, I put
Yeah.
not advantageous. That means that they just meet the minimum.
Yeah, and I don't have any idea at this point why I said unacceptable, but I remember thinking back. And I can't back at the moment.
I'll say advantageous.
Because I didn't see any financials,
Yep,
even though they worked on the Mount Douglas boiler.
seems like you ought to be able to answer that question, huh?
I don't either, but it almost seems like this first page should be 2 different pages, financial stability and similar experience, because they have the experience, like Matt just spoke
Yeah.
of, but I can't find any financial stability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they can
So I'm
come
gonna
to work tomorrow if they want. That's downright scary.
So that's why I'm saying advantageous, it's right.
What do you think, Shirley?
I'd say advantageous. I'm not thrilled, but
The second.
I could go either way.
And it does say, their only availability is 40% for this project.
That I'm going to change.
So,
I'm going to say not advantageous.
Yeah, I said unacceptable. I just, there were
Yeah.
too many holes.
so it's better than 30%, but
Well, but I don't agree with that. It's a much bigger firm, and 30% with a lot of people is different than.
But we're talking about these guys. It's not just the whole firm that's available. It's under these particular men that they
So they
say are going to be responsible in that.
I don't believe that,
breakdown.
but that's okay.
And
They're only available for
so we got the references, which was okay.
Well, that's what Bill Condon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good source, but,
I'd say
Not
more than always,
other-
it's very good, you don't get much better than that.
yeah.
You thinking something over there? Okay.
So references,
Highly advantageous.
We're on page 4?
yeah, I think we've done the others.
Oh, wait a minute, didn't we skip page 3?
Sorry. Right, we
I thought
did, we did.
skipped page 2, too.
Now I've messed up my tally.
Yeah, we did. We should be on page 2, proposal 12.
Yeah, because they didn't give us
Sorry.
any time
Yep.
frame.
And they didn't talk about future town needs, which a lot of them didn't, by the way, which I find a little distressing.
So we're on page 2, Shirley?
Yes,
Okay. I gave them a unacceptable.
I gave them unacceptable. So I think it is.
Okay, that's very
I
important.
mean, these,
I did
This-
too.
you
Yeah,
did this,
same.
I
Unacceptable.
assume. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It should- it's, you know, what do you want, a picture too? I mean, this is what we want, give
Yeah.
it to us.
Yeah.
So are we all set on that page
Yep.
2, Shirley?
On to the next page.
I gave them an advantageous.
I did too.
Yeah, we can have it. We've already kicked them out anyway, if you want to get right down to it.
Right. Advantageous.
3.
Let's be waste more time.
Ginger? Advantageous?
Sure, let's be generous.
Oh, boy. Okay, you good?
We're good.
And the last one,
Yeah,
McRitchie Engineering Incorporated.
I have to tell you, I'm going to go way out on a limb here. I like the way they wrote this. It's straightforward, it's understandable, there's no smoke and mirrors. What we want to know, they talked about what they thought was good, bad, and ugly. They talked, I mean, I think they did a good job. Couldn't be more clear. Very articulate, what the issues are, what needs to be looked at that hasn't necessarily been suggested by anybody else besides them. I don't know.
I agree with having done this the very first time. This is the only sense that I could wrap my head around. Say, oh,
Yeah, and
this
I'm like, hooray, they can speak English,
Right.
they know how to write properly,
Yeah.
they can put a sentence together, and they're not using smoke and mirrors.
Adam, was this one of the guys that was here for the walkthrough? Is it Mr. Gerber, Howard Gerber was here?
Absolutely, that's him.
The tragedy is nobody answered the phone.
And when he
Yeah, I
was the
know.
more formal guy with the button-down shirt?
He was, it was either the two to the right, the one who asked all the questions, who was writing me up code violations.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Tell us what you're saying.
So we spent an hour with the 3 people who came, and,
From this firm.
no, there were
All
3, I
three
don't know that all
different-
3 bid, but this guy definitely did.
Okay.
And he was sitting right here, right?
No,
No?
that was the guy across.
You're talking about the guy who used to live in Peru? You think that's?
Yeah, that's the guy. I think that's the guy.
Oh,
I think, because the guy who was sitting right there was actually, I have his name here. He gave me his card. It's Robert. He was the lead, was it LIRO? Liro Group or whatever you call it.
oh, right.
That was him.
And they
That was
didn't-
the gentleman who sat next to me, and we talked. I believe this is the guy from Peru that you're talking to. He's the one who wrote me up.
Peru, Massachusetts.
Prove them out.
He actually, Peru, Massachusetts. We had a long conversation, he and I, because I had to go to a meeting there one night and sit in their town hall, which is basically a Quonset hut with a leaky roof. And with the rural collaborative about pilot payments for the forest. So I'm
Yeah.
out in Peru with no phone service and found this place. So he said, oh, I lived there. And I was like, really? So you're one of 800?
Could have been a tester, that would have been worse.
So there were the two of them, but I think that's who it was,
Yeah, because I have, this is our sign-in sheet.
from Mac Ritchie.
And this was the gentleman who I sat with, talked to before we started. Then
Yeah.
the other gentleman walked in, sat there, then the last one was the one you
Well, so that was NV5 that was here.
Yeah,
Well, that makes sense.
yeah, so,
Oh, yeah, and I can tell from the handwriting, I know who he is.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so this guy was, how do you, he reminded me of Scotty from Star Trek,
Really?
right? She can't take any more, Captain, you know? But he was just so glib, and he was sort of a hobby type, you know, you can imagine he has a yard full of old Italian Fiats, and he makes them all
Oh,
roadworthy
geez.
again.
Oh.
You know, kind of approach,
Yeah.
but a lot of experience around the Commonwealth. That's why I didn't do references, because I spent an hour with the guy. He really, the thing about this proposal is the observation, the quality of observation.
Yep.
So when he was here, the other two were kind of walking around taking pictures and stuff, and he was tearing the panel apart, look at what's in there, and wants the job, but is also sort of like hands-on. You know, that what
Yeah.
you get is you're going to get that guy. So I
I
have
was,
a lot of good things to say
I
about
was-
him.
To me, this is the best proposal, bar none.
well, the thing
So,
I, the
on
thing
page
I,
one, or,
the
I
thing
think
I
we have our
liked,
3.
the thing I liked about this was he came out and said what he found was wrong,
Yeah.
and what we need to look for, and
Yeah.
what
And
needs to be
suggestions.
corrected, or, and you know it's
What
there.
Matt asked for, he gave us.
Yeah,
are we on page one?
yes, yes.
Because we're balling it all into one.
No,
Right.
but anyhow, so,
So for McRitchie on page one,
yeah,
I give them they meet the minimum.
I get highly advantageous.
I did too.
Me too.
Are we keeping score?
Incredible.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know that we even, well, just as an exercise we can go through.
and you're saying not advantageous?
I said not advantageous, yeah.
Okay. All right, page 2. Proposal quality,
Which is the time frame,
and it was listed.
and I gave them an advantageous.
Highly advantageous.
I did too.
Highly advantageous.
Okay.
Now, page 3,
Yeah. Key personnel,
I gave them an advantageous.
Highly advantageous. They've got good educations and they're not all from Dartmouth.
Highly advantageous.
Are you kidding? They got a cheap, quick education.
all right?
Give me a break.
And, okay, references, well, it looks
I
like,
mean, I know there's no real Dartmouth there, so
he
Oh, no return calls.
was very impressive. But
What do we?
when he was out here doing stuff. But
I'm
as
just
far
going by
as,
what Matt just said, so.
Yeah.
but for references, you couldn't reach them.
I couldn't, but that's not a reflection on this guy.
Right.
Right.
The other thing about both the two leads that they say they're going to assign,
Yes,
Mr. Gerber and Mr. Pomerleau, they're both MCPPO, which means they've gone through the same course that I've gone through for writing RFQs, RFPs, which is very helpful for them in their field, because they're not just doing plans, they're actually going to write the RFQ, and I don't have to deal with it. So they're going to write a legally compliant,
right.
not just the bid document, the construction drawings, but the verbiage that goes to
That you
select
can
the bid.
understand.
Yeah.
and Mr. Pomfrio, anyhow,
So
hands-on,
Bill used to require that people be an MCPPO. And the only reason why I don't go along with that is because that's on us. We need to have a qualified public procurement official on the town side, because it is the town. So I didn't make it a fatal error not to have it, but that doesn't mean that it isn't a huge advantage to have it along with the
Advantage to
engineer.
have it.
Yeah, because it takes pressure off me and Adam
Yeah.
and the whole team. We don't have to write the scope of work or anything that goes with it, so.
Yeah. I just think it stands out, head and shoulders above the other applications.
Just to back up what Matt was saying, when we were walking around, I mean, he was pointing out code violations to me, you know, it was that, oh, it's good.
Yeah.
Because it's
Yes.
things that happened many years, you know, decades ago.
Yes.
And he's like, you know, that's not code anymore, and this, and he, you know, he's going through it, so he knows.
He knows
You know,
it,
just
too.
standing there walking around, he was willing to let, you know, tell me his information, what, you know, what we've got to change. I mean, things that we may not be able to do just on this scope, on this project, but things for the future. And, you know, and he might be able to do that with his, you know, he said, hey, the generator's this, but in the future, change this, this, and this. And that's something that I look for.
He was picking up on the equipment in the boxes, in the hallways,
Yeah.
upstairs. Did you notice what he figured out in the cover letter? Did you read the cover letter?
No, I haven't.
You know that UPS that we had down there that fried
Yeah.
and nobody knew what it was connected
Yeah.
to? He figured it out.
Did he?
Did the other applicants
It's worth
have the
talking about.
opportunity to walk around?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yep,
They did?
were with us.
Okay.
They took pictures, they talked a little bit, they asked us certain things. We really focused on this room, the IT room down at the police station.
Okay.
But then we went to the basement, and I mean, we have old panels, we have old things that are down there. And, I mean, this gentleman got a screwdriver out and opened up a panel. I mean, he was very like into it to see what the inside, okay, the outside looks like this, but what's on the inside, you know?
Were they individually walked through or all together?
All together. So they were all
So
actually
maybe this guy
kibbutzing
was
around.
the first one to speak up.
Maybe, I mean.
And then the others were like, why should I repeat
Yeah.
myself?
And
He's
maybe.
already said it.
They did engage, though.
Yeah.
But,
Oh, okay.
You know, they,
All right.
but I think this is really important for everybody on this committee and
Yeah.
Adam to know.
Yeah.
Because it's on page 2. It's the third indentation down the page.
yep,
It appears that all the information technology racks, which are in the room behind us, have a power backup supply associated with them. The boiler control panel does not, and goes into lockout mode upon a power failure. So that UPS that's down there, that's what that was. That was your boiler
That's the next-
backup. And so when that UPS went, power failure about a year and a half ago,
Yeah, that's
none of us could figure out what it was connected to because there was nothing plugged into it. It's for the boiler.
just,
wow.
you know, yeah. that's
He
a-
just picked up on it like
That's what he
that.
did, he walked through and knew, like that, and he was really good. You guys-
So am I getting the opinion too that it appears that, okay, doing this project, if something isn't going to work and cause a problem that's here, that's going to have to be fixed?
So to Ginger's point about being mindful of the future needs of the town,
Yeah,
this was the one particular individual in the walkthrough who said, how are you providing emergency backup for your network and other key components here during the transition from power from the street to the emergency generator? There's supposed to be surge suppression in place, but that instantaneous click over isn't fast enough to prevent damage to our equipment. The UPS does that. It cleans the power and stabilizes the power while the rest of the system's coming back up.
And I like that because
You
we
can't
talked about
put
that
them in
before.
seriatim because they'll fail. And he was the one person who said, you can't have a UPS plugged into a UPS plugged into your network because UPSs don't play nice together in the sandbox. They're looking to clean each other's power and control and regulate voltage from each other, and they don't do that. They get wigged out. So he's the one person who said, if you go with an all-building generator, you need an all-building UPS, or be thoughtful about where you put the UPS units and don't put them in line with each other. Again, we're lay people, we're not electricians, but we have thousands of dollars worth of equipment in there
Yep.
that can't deviate more than 3 volts one way or the other, or it'll,
When we have
Fry up.
party builder.
that's right, so it was a helpful
yes.
I
conversation.
thought there was a lot of thoughtfulness, intelligence.
He's engaged.
Yes.
You looking for a motion as to which three we're going to submit to the?
Sure.
Well, Shirley's been
Yep.
adding up the score.
No.
I mean, we have to
Hey.
go that way. We can't just say.
Well, that was more of an exercise
Yeah.
for us to, for our discussion purposes.
But,
I think it's,
getting to,
do we want to go one by
This might
one?
help everybody. At the conclusion of the process,
yeah,
the individual proposals in your score sheet become a matter of public record.
yep,
So you
Yes.
you do have to finish it.
Okay,
Correct.
yep. So, hold on.
so you can do some math.
So, we have eliminated Salmon and
Giorgio.
The other thing I liked was it's so plain. There's no fancy schmancy to fool us.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they changed the name of.
Right, they didn't take a picture of town Douglas and blah, blah, blah.
When people do that, it's just like,
It's
really?
like, how you kidding?
We work there, we drive by that sign every day. You don't put it on the front cover of your proposal. It doesn't mean you were here.
Doesn't mean anything except you're silly.
You grabbed, it's a screenshot really from the website, because that's one of the photos on Cycles.
Well,
Will the Board of Selectmen look at the score, or are they just going to take, this is the three?
well, you know what we're going to say, and you're going to talk to them, right, Matt? And
Well,
you'll,
we have.
Sure,
to
I
add
can
up
be
the
your
score.
messenger. I think the other thing you can do is, your obligation is to say that these three would be the best of the six that we received.
right,
But you, if you want to favor one over the other, you certainly can do that.
absolutely. I do, I don't know about
I do,
everybody else.
yeah.
I mean, I just think they stand. When, after looking
So-
at all the others.
So
when I
who's number
read that
one?
one, I was like,
Yeah.
We did 4, VS.
It's kind of like, BLW was very thoughtful about the work
Yeah,
and provided solid timelines, which was appreciated.
so BLW.
But they didn't have the level of detail at McRitchie,
Four.
but McRitchie doesn't provide the same workflow. Although,
it was there.
it's almost like you're right, he's getting ahead of the game with
Right.
the comments he's making.
And he had a timeline, and he had all of that stuff. And I found it interesting, was it, I know his timeline for the boiler, or the, what am I saying?
The generator.
It was long, you know. it was like-
Yeah, so we're getting a little bit of bad news from the field.
I'll bet.
There are people who have ordered generators as of January that are still
Yeah.
waiting.
Oh, gee,
Doesn't surprise me.
yeah.
And the other company that had that same information, 2 to 4 weeks or something, I mean, what planet do you?
Unless you got one out in the
Yeah.
back.
We really
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
stupid?
Yeah,
You think it can go 26 weeks and now you're saying it's going to be done in blah, blah, blah?
Yeah.
No.
okay, so, bear with me. It looks like, all right, BLW, we all agreed on page 1. So that was a 4.
4.
And a 4 on page 2. So 4, somebody adding up here.
Right, so.
And then
what about
page 3, we were split, 2 and 2.
As highly advantageous,
Yes.
Okay.
Are you adding up?
sure. And the third.
And the references was a 4,
Okay.
all right?
What are you doing with the 2 and 2?
2 was, so all were 4s, highly advantageous, and 2 of us said highly advantageous.
I'm not sure what it
May I
means.
ask a question? It's
Four.
probably more about the
And Sue
process.
said something else.
Yeah, so you have to,
Tally them up.
So it's
Could,
split.
as a board, could we just say, we chose, just as an example, this one as our number 1 pick, and
Yeah.
these 2 as our number 2 pick? Here's, you can give the board that, this is the numbers that we gave, but because now having been through the process the first time, I might have chosen different numbers to do that spreadsheet.
yeah.
You know, we can give the board that, this is what, this is after,
when
this
we all
after
said-
discussion, this is what we came up
We
with.
just went around the table at each
Yeah.
Yeah.
page and said highly advantageous, so
Right.
you're saying that after all this, you still want to go back and change your mind?
No.
No, not necessarily
no.
change my mind, but after having the discussion, being through the process, from my opinion, this is number one, and these two are tied for number two.
13,
In my opinion, BLW is number one, and those
Okay.
tied for number two.
Yep.
So,
Nothing quite like a difference of.
All right.
that's why she's adding everything up, because it has to be.
I thought you were,
a
never
vote.
mind.
Well, she's giving
Just
me
do it, Shirley.
the numbers, and I'm putting them on my sheet. So what do you have for page 2?
Hold on.
Or,
So-
I'm sorry, not page 2, but,
So BLW put down, okay, so we do on the first page, over on the outer, so there's a 4,
Yeah, and
a 2,
I did a not advantageous on BLW for the
And-
third page.
and a 2, and a
oh, you
4.
did a not advantageous for BLW?
On the third page.
Just
Oh,
for
on the
discussion's
third, fourth
sake,
to 12,
Ginger, what would you
15.
pick if
So
you were picking 1, 2, and 3?
16. Okay.
For which company?
All these three that we, if you were to pick number 1, 2, and 3, well,
By number?
no, just after having discussion.
Obviously, I would definitely pick, what are they?
Well, it's obvious to you.
That was her name?
McRitchie's.
I would pick Park Way. This is no neck and rate, neck.
So you feel very strongly about that? Okay.
BLW, I had some reservations about, but I figured, everybody's all excited, let's give them numbers.
So 2, 3,
I think if we went back through that again, though, Fred, we'd be able to find some pretty good flaws.
Yeah.
did
I
Giorgio,
got this at the last minute, and I could have done better.
I took 2 days.
I had 2 days.
GTD,
Well, TV was on.
Catchy,
You read it all, there's a lot of material here.
Yeah.
yes.
I read it, but some of it I really
Yeah.
scanned, because I knew it was,
Well, yeah,
I knew
it's
it wasn't
redundant.
important.
Yeah.
So Shirley,
It's not
do we
the
have
real deal.
NB5 yet to look at? I mean, we're pretty much done with,
BLW, I got 16, NV5 is 10, McRitchie, that's the 3, I'm just highly
Okay.
advantageous.
all right.
3, wait a minute, 3, 6,
Is not the math really that
9,
simple?
10,
It's gotta be-
11,
Should really be a formula to put these numbers in, you come up with a number.
I agree.
14, 15, really? McRitchie is 15.
As highly advantageous?
Yeah. When you add the highly advantageous, that's what I'm doing. If that's wrong, tell me.
Oh, that's because of the references. Because I was like, I didn't.
So then what'd you get for GGD?
Hold on.
There has to be a better way to do this.
Yeah, that doesn't,
This is just,
just to me, that
GGD
doesn't make sense, because if there's a bunch, two highly advantageous and one, that should cancel out.
Two.
So there should be a,
So advantageous, GGD, we didn't finish. For whatever reason, I messed up. Oh, no, 4, unacceptable, I'm sorry.
so we shouldn't even count.
Hold on, GGD. Yeah, as far as, so advantageous was 4, 5,
Matt, can you find a?
no, it's not,
do you understand what I'm saying? It doesn't make,
no,
Yeah. You're
because we
right.
ended up, no.
like if there was a spreadsheet with formulas that you put these numbers in, it spits out a number.
I tried that too, that came back at me.
It came back well. No dice?
So what I got was
'Cause you know what
16
happens
for
is-
BLW, 10 for NVS, 15 for McKechnie as far as advantageous.
15?
What was BLW?
16.
10 for NVS and GGD, we don't get a add at all.
Nobody
Yeah, I had kind
voted.
of left them aside, so I don't know if.
Nobody said they were highly advantageous. There was an
Yeah.
advantageous, and then there was a not advantageous, and then there was an unacceptable.
Is this BOW?
No, it's GGD.
Oh, well,
And then
yeah.
the reference carried some weight with you
Yeah.
because they'd worked here before.
Yeah,
And both Mike and Bill thought they did a decent job.
yeah,
Excuse me, Madam Chair?
yeah,
Adam was
Just a quick thing.
Sure.
I remember when we were doing the boiler project back.
Yeah.
Everyone had their own score sheet.
Yeah.
In capital. And you basically, if you did highly advantageous, it was 4 points. Then it was 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
And then each person had their own score, and then we added them together, and that's how we got.
That makes sense.
how we
Yeah.
got
I
the
can
total.
live with that.
That's what we ended,
But
that's how,
this is not-
I think we did it
this
in
is
capital.
just-
Again, we're talking
It's got me
back.
confused.
yeah,
Well, it's too late for that now.
But if you recorded something for everybody, I can go through it real fast.
okay.
I got my little.
Well, we
phone
did
with a
skip one
calculator on
because we did skip one because we said this is out of
That's
the
when we-
picture, so we didn't put
yeah.
anything down on the
it.
sheet.
Oh,
That's
that
fine,
was
you can do that.
GGD?
Yep.
Yeah.
The Giorgio, and I think it was Salomon, I think you guys.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
eliminated
eliminated
right
those.
away,
So you have 4.
yeah. And I've got, my sheet is all messed up, Matt, but,
So BLW 16,
Well, I think you
NVS
got the
10,
three
McRitchie Engineering.
Yes.
GGD didn't burst
Yeah.
the bubble, so you
Yeah.
have 3. And so the question that's before you now is whether you want to recommend anybody over the other 2.
Madam Chair, did you have a clear preference out of the 3 that we?
I do, but I want to hear you. I don't
We'll
feel
say
that.
so.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, round the,
What I'm saying is,
We're all in agreement. I mean, these
Yeah, I had-
are in agreement.
I had a preference, but I would have no problem telling the board, we as a, chose these 2, kind of tie for number 1, and then this one as our second.
That sounds
McRitchie
reasonable,
first.
because they were so close, 10 and 16 and
Yeah.
15, whereas the other one got a 10, NV5 got a 10,
all
so
right, my choice is McKetchy,
Me too.
McGretchy, whatever.
I wanted
Richie, isn't it?
McRitchie.
I'm sorry, what was your preference?
BLW.
Would the board have a problem saying, recommending those two as our number
Correct.
1 choices and the other one as our second choice?
Correct.
Because without
Ginger?
having points for that spreadsheet, there's no way to use
Yeah.
those numbers are meaningless.
Yeah,
I don't want to say BLW's in them. I want to say McRitchie, BLW, and what's the other one? That's-
So
I
we'd
think
have,
we're going nowhere.
we could vote on it.
I'm getting there.
Vote, so that's a
just,
waste of time.
let's give Matt a minute here.
I'd say BLW and NV5 are, not NV5,
McRitchie?
McRitchie are neck and neck.
No way.
Well, there's just 1 point difference.
That's
one-
right. So they're pretty basically the same.
Unless I
The last
added wrong.
That could be,
Hey,
was NV5.
but they're still close.
Mm-hmm.
And NV5 is number 3.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we are kind of.
you feel comfortable with that, everybody? But, let's
Because
see,
the only thing I had for McRitchie was okay. You know, they hit every point.
I was so impressed with how they came out with,
They did
This-
a lot of good stuff.
this
Yeah.
needs to be changed.
So,
This is the problem, so,
using a 4-3-2-1 point system,
yeah,
you have a tie between BLW and McRitchie at 60, and NV5 was 47.
Oh, there you go.
and
So then you
nobody
can-
else measured up. Nope,
And again, you can have a discussion and a vote if you wish. Do you want to keep your notes, or do you want me to put this together with,
I don't care.
I'll put that in
Whatever
the
works
file.
for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll put it in the file so that we have it.
Just keep it somewhere.
So, do we have a motion? Right? You want to,
Yeah, you had suggested the
Okay.
top 2 be tied, right?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we recommend these 3 firms to the Board of Selectmen. McRitchie Engineering, BLW Engineers, and NV5, with the board's preference being McRitchie and BLW as our preference, with NV5 being our second. Tied for our preference, with NV5 being their second choice.
Do I hear a second?
Second. Linda Brown,
So,
second.
motion by Fred, Linda, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Thank you, everybody. And Adam, and Matt.
Thank you.
What do we,
Can I give this stuff back to you, or
you can leave it here.
I don't have to keep it, right?
No, you don't.
No. So
A lot of paper.
what's the time up there?
Almost 5:45.
Okay. One thing, I think, maybe we, are you willing to stay to continue the meeting briefly? We have a couple things I think we need to just, and we can leave the other for another time, or quickly go through. But there's, like, Matt, you were going to give a brief overview of
I can blast through a lot of
gymnasium
this.
windows.
Yeah, I can blast through a lot of this. So I'll tell you, the two things I don't have much to say to you on are the main roof replacement,
Yeah,
because that is, I'm going to take an RFQ that Bill did for another roof project
okay.
and modify it and just use it as the basis. So there is a plan in place, but we got to get through this one before we can do that one.
Yeah,
The fire alarm, I think you had already agreed we'd hold off on until the roof was done.
yep,
The library,
ongoing.
I don't have an ADA accessibility update for you, but we have noticed cracks in the ceiling there. The horsehair plaster is very old,
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
you say
a
that.
lot of you have older homes and
Yeah.
are aware of the history of it. It's plaster that's pushed through lats, and it
and we've been
mushrooms.
talking about this at Capitol.
So it's starting to let go a little bit. The complicating factor here is that an electrician has to come and move things out of the way so that blue board can be tacked up in place and a new coat of plaster put over that modern plaster. So it will be on the town meeting warrant, because it's kind of an emergency. We got people working in there and this stuff could fall. It's going to be in the $58,000, $60,000 range. It's 5 rooms, it's staging, it's electrician.
That library is going to kill us in the long run. We could have had such a beautiful library at one time. That,
Okay, let's move on. Green energy?
Green energy, so we filed an application this week for $109,000 worth of grant support.
100 and that,
$109,000.
109,000.
A really big chunk of that, about $79,000 of it, is a full retrofit of the high school, almost full. There's like 4 or 5 classrooms they have to leave aside for a second phase, but it's almost the entire building, retrofitting all the light fixtures to LED. The thought is the town will save $18,000 a year.
it's $79,000 to do that.
Yes,
but we'll save
If we get the green
$18,000 a year.
energy.
a year, yeah,
If
so
we-
it's about 3 or 4 year payback.
If we get the.
If we get the
green
grant.
energy
It's a competitive grant, so we have to. There are 2 pieces for the fire station, so that it's another lighting retrofit, and we asked for about just about $8,000 worth of assistance to insulate the roof. The roof in some locations, especially over the meeting room, is not insulated at all. We just blow heat straight up through the roof. So the payback is a long payback period, but it still makes sense to do, because it'll do so much good for the whole building. And the last is a lighting retrofit for the adult social center. So we have fluorescent tubes hanging in of various vintages. In that space, we would go to all LEDs. It would allow us to brighten up in some parts of that,
That's probably important.
for safety and other reasons.
Yeah.
So I had to take electric vehicles off, which much to my chagrin, because we have charging stations being installed here with state money. Right now, the people who would use a vehicle are using their personal vehicle for inspections and other things, and we reimburse them the federal mileage rate. The Green Communities Grant rules say they can't calculate the energy savings as a result, therefore it's not a qualified grant. So it does make sense, but it was disappointing.
Yep.
I might still take another run at it. We'll see how the budget shakes out for this year. But that's our green energy. The good news is the payback on LEDs is so strong that we have a real strong application. We have good energy reduction.
Good.
Application.
How many charging stations?
We have 2, there'll be 4 outlets, but there's only 2 circuits. So we're going to have to share a circuit on each one. So if you pull up and somebody's already there, you should go to the other one, because then you'll get the full blast instead of half. The grant program is called EVIP, and they supplied the town with, the whole project is $56,000. Town meeting voted us the overage, because the grant was capped at $50,000. You see, they're already installed, the connections are already out there, we're just waiting for the actual charging stations. There's an annual cost to the software, because it's all, you use your credit card, and so there's a program that manages. Now, what my colleagues tell me, that we got to be, this is why I think we need to buy an electric vehicle for our inspectors. You pay to energize those circuits once they're installed. So the annual electricity, it's like leaving a light bulb on all the time, your night light. So there's a carrying cost to this, so we have to make sure we publicize it, and if we can get electric vehicles for the town, it helps us with a little bit of insurance. They should be charging there all the time. That will legitimize the asset that's been installed. We eventually are going to pull a lot of our fleet over to this direction, so
Yep.
It made sense. Well, they were giving money away, so it made sense to grab it.
Yep. We did the generator.
Backup generator you're aware of. The outlet bridge, we just hit their first milestone, so we just paid them for the initial work.
They've removed, the old bridge is gone.
Yeah,
Big
I
hole.
saw that.
They're down to the ledge.
Yeah.
They have to pin the footing, so that's what they're working on. Of course, we had the rainstorm the other day, so, they pumped it all back.
What
up
else
again.
is new?
Yeah, exactly, so, but that's where they're at. They're pouring the footing, going
Okay.
to stop pouring the footing, they're framing it now, and then they'll pin it to the ledge. That's what they were looking for, they
Yep.
want ledge. So they'll pin it to that, and then they'll stop moving forward.
Good.
We did get some stuff in email, how they're going to bring in the bridge, how, the crane and on a truck and everything like that. So they are communicating well, and we have, like Matt was going to say, we've started to pay them 100 and,
Yeah, the first installment was
Yeah, first installment.
$115,000 or
yeah,
something.
exactly.
You?
Gymnasium windows, this project has 2 pieces to it.
Wait, municipal fire along is on hold.
Yes, I thought we
Till
already.
we get other
Yeah.
stuff done. Okay. Sorry, municipal gymnasium.
So there's an asbestos abatement piece that has to be done, because we had an environmental consultant scrape samples off there back in 18. They're not even that high, but they just barely make it over, so we can't do it. So I've obtained a list that's effective as of today of all of the licensed asbestos abatement contractors. And it's only like 14 grand, so we're going to put that out, the scope of work out to the licensed contractors and see who bids back. But it creates a scheduling issue. So I've written the scope of work and invitation to quote for the windows themselves, and Mike Fitzpatrick has a draft that, he knows a lot about this stuff, so I'm going to listen to
Yeah.
his feedback. My one question back to him is exactly what is going to be in, is it going to be a paned window like we have in there now, or just single pane with decorative? It matters to the cost of the window.
Whatever's the cheapest.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but wait a minute. The reason we were going to do the windows in the beginning was because of the coldness, and it has to be a thermal,
Right, it has to be an energy efficient window.
yes.
Right.
So it's going to be a triple pane, I'm sure,
Okay.
right? But so by pane, I didn't mean 3 layers. I meant, if you go down there, it has these grills.
Okay.
But they're actually, those are individual windows, not just plastic grills over the top of a single
Right.
pane. So that's what I'm asking Mike to clarify for me before I put it out.
Okay.
The statewide contracting agency, it's called the Operational Services Division in the Department of Administration, negotiates statewide contracts with many different vendors for many different things. A year and a half ago, they came out with a statewide blanket contract for tradespeople. And this is a great rule for us to be aware of. as long as the labor component of the construction project is under 50,000, you can use this statewide contract, which is nice, because it means I don't have to advertise in the Worcester Telegram and spend all the money on the advertisement.
Yeah,
So there's a select group of contractors that are on the statewide contract. There's about 5 or 6 on a statewide and about 8 that focus on Worcester County. So we'll send the invitation to quote to those 13 people, and that will be sufficient. We will meet our advertising requirements as soon as that is done. This is so simple, I don't think I need to come back here to you with it. It's 12 windows, 84 by, we'll just get it done.
As long as we know.
So they're going to have to coordinate. The asbestos guy is going to have to coordinate with the replacement guy.
Right.
And I'm checking with Gene to make sure that the motion that passed, because I think it did, the motion that passed at town meeting needs to pay for the boarding up of those windows if there's any gap in time between one or the other. So
Okay.
we've made some progress there. And the last item
Thank
is public safety radio system, which,
We're still in limbo on this?
no, a lot of work has been done. This is, I understand why ham radio people like their hobby so much, because there's so much detail that they get to constantly fix stuff, and it must be a great hobby. I'll go through each component of this. One is obtaining licenses from the Federal Communications Commission so that we don't interfere with anybody else who's on the same frequency. We have 2 existing frequencies that we already have licensed, one for police, one for fire.
right.
But because we're going to broadcast it at a higher level of power, we had to get sign-offs. We have obtained those sign-offs from the bureaucrats.
That's great.
The third is a brand-new frequency for highway, because right now highway has its own radio system. It's like basically elephant, low band, blah, 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 blah. There's another town in Connecticut that has the same frequency that we're asking for. We're waiting for the Connecticut radio director to sign off. He's going to, because it's far away. We're not going to bump up against them. Once we have all of our licenses in place, we will then be able to determine the exact size and configuration of the antenna that we need to mount
Right,
on the towers.
right.
I can't negotiate with the tower providers until I know exactly what equipment we're going to put up
Yeah.
there. So that's the contingencies that need to fall into place. We are also working with Spectrum to get the fiber backhaul, the internet connection. The good news is, because we're building a microwave system, we only need the local area network, as it's called, to reach one of our sites. We already have fiber to the fire station. So we're just going to have to make sure that the dedicated circuit that has to be set up is set up on our existing equipment. So that is also moving forward. So we have Spectrum, our IT guy, and the radio guys are all talking to each other.
Good.
That's progress. Most of the equipment is already purchased and is in the warehouse,
That's great.
so we are not suffering. So they knew there was going to be a problem with supply, so they went out and they ordered the stuff as soon as we signed the contract.
That's wonderful.
So we have it.
Wow.
The last wrinkle that I need to work out, and this is going to give me fits. The warehouses that are contemplated being built, there's actually 3. There's one at the old Serendipity site, which you see, it's all dug up and the woods have
That's
all
in
been cut down.
Uxbridge.
That's in Uxbridge, but we're close to that.
Yeah.
The one that's planned for Douglas, next to Nat Pond or Gilboa Pond, whatever you prefer to call it. And then the one on the other side of 146 that straddles Sutton, Douglas, and Uxbridge. By code, those buildings are so large, by the building code, they have to have antennas to boost the signal so that public safety personnel inside the building won't lose signal. There's this long scientific trivia, but if you build a big box out of steel, you've built the Faraday cage, and then fill it with concrete and make it even worse. A Faraday cage blocks signals of all kinds from going, so you need to amplify the signal. And we have this set up at our schools, because the schools are big buildings. Some of the schools, not all of them. So the question I've posed to our radio contractor is, how's the best way to do this? Because who's going to respond to these warehouses if somebody breaks an ankle or has a heart attack or, God forbid, a mass casualty incident? Who's going to be there? All of us. Douglas, Sutton, Uxbridge, and Northbridge. Can we have 4 bidirectional antennas repeating signal for 4 different frequencies and not just cancel each other out completely?
That's a good question.
Wow.
So our radio people are going to suggest to the people building the warehouses that they actually make one of those warehouses a radio site, an actual radio transmission site, as opposed to being just an antenna to focus signal. It will, in the long run, be cheaper for the person building the warehouse to do it right the first time, and it'll be safer for our people to know. They're still going to have to work out their protocols, how they're going to talk to each other, but they will have the signal for all 4 communities will be boosted. Because nobody, if you think about it, it's on the edge of all 4 of our towns. When we go out to get spectrum allocation and broadcast authority, around, once you get to the edge of Douglas, your signal's getting weaker because you're trying not to bleed
Right.
across too far. So if everybody's in that same boat, my nightmare scenario is that a whole bunch of people show up, they all have their repeaters on, they all cancel each other out, there's no signal inside the building, and we end up running messages like they did in the Spanish-American War, right? Take this message to Garcia. So that won't hold up our project. We're going to still do our project. But
So-
it is a consideration that, in terms of
Yeah.
scoping our project, might still be fungible.
So on the other side of town, the agreement with the tower in Webster, where is that?
So I have to wait until the antennas, until we get the frequency, so we know what equipment we're putting on that tower.
Okay.
That will determine the rental rate.
Okay.
As far as that side of town, our signal's going to get much stronger, because we're going to have a microwave tower up there. So that dead spot that we used to have down in the forest
Yeah.
should be eliminated, except for the really low spots. We can't do anything about that.
Any questions on any of that so far? And the oil spill?
Oh, page 2. The oil spill, there is an article on town meeting warrant for November 8th, for the town to pick up its share of this cost, which I think we're asking for more than we,
So they're telling us, the environmental group, Omni Environmental is telling us that we need about $150,502. And also the replacement equipment is another 35, which just puts us at 185. So we're asking for 200 to be on the safe side, and then we'll give back what we don't use, just in case, again, in case something happens.
200,000.
200,000. Our cost is gonna be 150 just for the cleanup, and then 35 was for the equipment. That's my first estimate, so we're gonna have to get a couple more, but that was the first one I did receive, so we could put it on the fall town meeting.
and we will be installing an additional groundwater monitoring well as part of that money that we're asking for. So far, knock on wood, every time they bail the pipe, we get good results.
Exactly.
We haven't
Good.
infiltrated the groundwater, but you gotta, to meet DEP standards, we need an additional well.
Needs to stop raining too.
Well, that's important. It probably is a blessing in a way. Maybe they diluted. Com check half an hour late, that's okay.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah.
I know it's late, but I gotta get this out there
Yeah.
because it's such an irritant. The vendor that sold us that oil, that was involved,
I heard this.
settled with the Attorney General, the state of Massachusetts, a very substantial fine. They were putting too much biofuel into their heating oil,
Lovely.
and that has the tendency to gum up if it doesn't circulate and isn't burned right away. The settlement was only for residential customers, so we can't benefit from the settlement.
Lovely.
And not to put my lawyer hat on, but the Attorney General really needed to prosecute the case. If she had established a record, the legal doctrine is res judicata. once a court
Yeah.
decides the facts,
Yeah, maybe.
those facts are no longer contestable. Another party filing a lawsuit can take those facts and build their case on those facts. If she had gone as a consumer protection case in defense of residential customers, because it doesn't matter what pipe they hook up to, it's
Yeah,
what they had in the
still.
tank when they pulled up.
Yeah.
So we're going back and forth as to whether or not we can gather enough evidence to file a suit.
Okay.
I think our insurer should be filing the suit.
Yeah.
Our insurer also insures the Dayton Rehoboth School District, and their heating oil spill was much worse than ours, but it was about the same time, and it was the same vendor. There's just too many
Gee.
coinky-dinks,
Yeah.
so to speak, to feel comfortable. I don't think the taxpayer of the town of Douglas should be on the hook for somebody else's decision
Right.
to basically cheat and put too much of that biofuel into the mix.
Yeah.
So
But
what do you think's going to happen?
unfortunately, if our insurer doesn't file a lawsuit, I don't know if we have the wherewithal. We'd be spending $100,000 to save $100,000. I don't know if it
No.
comes out, but it's a shame. Sometimes the prosecutor has to pursue the case to protect everybody's interest.
Do we know if they're going to do that?
No, they settled. They settled, and Peterson,
No way to do anything?
the only way Peterson would sign the settlement was to admit no fault.
Oh,
Peterson's been around a long time.
But there's newspaper articles, I'm not speaking out of turn. There's
Yeah.
fairly long articles in the
Yep.
Boston Globe about this.
right.
Great.
Very good. Thank you for the info. I do have one other thing. Obviously, we don't have the minutes yet, but they're being worked on. We have a
Our new minute taker is fabulous, awesome, amazing, attacking the workload amazingly fast. So you will have minutes.
And I have been in contact with Maria, and I have given her all the dates that I think we're missing.
Yeah, that's what we needed first and foremost. Yep.
So I have done that. The next thing that we need to decide on, and it was on your agenda, because technically we're down for November 17th, next meeting, but we did talk about changing our time of meeting.
Yep.
We usually meet the third Wednesday. This was exceptional because we needed to get this info out and decided on regarding the tank,
Generator.
the municipal backup generator. So, the third Thursday, I'm not sure of the date, but would you, again, we talked about 4 o'clock,
Works for me.
On Thursday or Wednesday?
Wednesday,
Okay.
The third
The third
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
because they need to know they're making up next year's agenda
Yeah.
So
list.
just change the time
To
for
4.
Wednesdays.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I agree.
Usually we
4
meet.
o'clock is fine.
We usually meet the third Wednesday of the month, I believe, and instead of 7 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and if we need to have discussion with Matt on issues.
Two Matts.
Also, I was just going to mention, also, the town has hired a planner,
Oh.
and looking forward to him coming in on the 14th.
His first day at work will be the 14th. There's a planning board meeting that night he's going to go to.
Okay,
Matt was the town planner in Auburn for quite a few years, and did some private sector work in between, and then ended up in the planning department in Natick most recently, with doing a lot of their GIS, their electronic mapping work. That planning department there is like 8 people, right? So he wanted to come back and work on subdivisions and the things that he feels like he's good at and was trained in, so I think it was a really good fit. Shirley was in the interview team. Good to ask some tough questions. So I'm excited. I think he'll have a lot of energy.
and so therefore, maybe we can get him involved in some of our projects.
Absolutely.
We
So do you
can
want a
use,
motion to change the time?
yes,
I make a motion to change our meeting times to the third Wednesdays of every month at 4 o'clock PM.
Second?
motion made by Linda and seconded by Fred. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
So your annual meeting schedule will have to be amended. I'll tell Chris,
Yes,
and we'll repost that
yes,
on the
Okay.
website and out here.
yep.
Informed cable, or do they know just me?
Well, they will know.
Hear that?
Thank you.
We're worrying about the minutes, but these are filmed every time.
Yes,
we
she
meet.
takes the,
So are they
Recordings.
archived
So,
or are they deleted
so.
at some point?
no, they're not. So
They're not deleted.
I really love the way the town of Douglas does it because you're much more transparent than a lot of other towns. You know, technically, you don't have to film anything other than the select board. And I think planning board because they're elected. But we film everybody. But the legal requirement is that minutes be taken. The video is not presently considered minutes. So the minute taker does motions and seconds, summarizes the conversation, timestamps it, so the person who wants all the flavor can go to the video and scroll forward in the video to the point where that issue was discussed.
But all those videos are archived, so you can get any of them if you want.
Yes, so that's how she's going to do the minutes.
That's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
yep. Okay, any other questions, comments?
Nope.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn at 6:10 PM.
Wow.
Second?
Motion again made by Linda and seconded by Fred to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Adam.